All right, team, welcome back to After Hours, and I'm feeling pretty gay. I'm feeling pretty gay. Let's
What's up,
do
guys?
that. Do that one
I'm
more
feeling
time.
gay as hell this morning. How are we? I know June's over, but
All right, team, we're back with After Hours today, and I'm feeling pretty great, and I know Maddie is as well because XRP, some of our altcoins are performing very, very nicely, Matt. And just to get started here, pop off the show here, Grayscale actually put something out last week, and it is the top 10 crypto assets in week returns and year to date here. And we have some of our favorites on here. So if we're talking year to date, guys, if you guys want to know if crypto charge is valid, by this chart, we are, because the number 2 performer year to date on this chart is XRP, along with other payment solutions that we have talked about. And if we're talking about just last week, from July 10th to July 17th, XRP performed great. Cardano was something that Maddie was charting a lot on what was the website show called? The Crypto Charge Live Show. And Stellar. So these are coins that are talked about a lot. Maddie, so we're so vindicated, right? We picked the crypto that is the best performer in 2025 so far.
yeah, it feels great to see XRP at the top of the list. Just peeking at CoinMarketCap pretty much every day, just to kind of see what's going on out there. Getting a pulse on the market. Seeing XRP at the number 3 spot, essentially, if you take out stablecoins, which really aren't a competing or a competitor in the space. But also, like you said, like other things that we've charted regularly, Cardano that we've talked about pretty regularly here. Even though we haven't been involved in Solana, charting Solana pretty closely. We actually came within like $2 of our limit when Solana was hitting its lows of an area of interest that we were interested in for Solana. But a lot of great high quality projects in here. Of course, you do have your Dogecoin in there still, but when you do have some of these highly liquid, more established meme coins like Dogecoin and SHIB, you're going to maybe see those continue to be in the top 10, but maybe over time, as we see more utility come in, maybe they'll be close to like top 50, top 100, top 150, not always in that top 10 ranking.
So there is a lot of vindication for, the Crypto Charge team here. And I think, this is in line, if you go back to our December 2024 show, our last show of the year, we went through our portfolios and kind of talked about our performance from bear to bull up until that point. And our performance was very immaculate. And so last week we came back and kind of made the statement, hey, if you did a Bitcoin only portfolio, kind of sucks. We kind of told you guys otherwise. And so listen, is it always going to be like this? Is it always going to be this easy? Maybe not. Maybe next bear market, it gets a little bit difficult. But one thing's for sure is when you see a lot of these blue chips sitting within, top 20, top 50 on CoinMarketCap, be interested in them, look at them, evaluate them. Are they proprietary or not? Those will kind of be some questions you want to ask yourself when deciding what cryptos you should be investing in. And a lot of our investing, Matt, was in the bear market. I know for me, a majority of my college is focused on buying crypto, schoolwork, work, and then that was pretty much it for my college days. And now I'm reaping the benefit of it. I'm only 23. And so I'm going to say it here, team, just XRP alone, since we're going to talk about XRP probably a lot on the show later on behalf. I am a 6-figure XRP holder, and that's easy. And that's great for a 23-year-old. And I just want to say, we told you so. We told you guys for so long, and you guys could be a part of this train with us. But so many of you guys want to follow the traditional narratives that have been alive in crypto. And Maddie, I think this just goes to speak, for itself really, is like, hey, things change over time in the crypto market. Things change over time in many different asset classes, right? It is for you to be on the cutting edge and witness or recognize what is about to take place and actually go all in on it. That's how rich people actually get rich. They don't get rich when they're 20 years old and they do this diversified portfolio. No, they usually go all in on one thing and then they accrue a mass amount of wealth. Matt, wouldn't you say that's true?
I think that's true of pretty much anyone who's built wealth. And again, we've talked about many episodes like how it's been easier with savings, all these different opportunities of, inflation being a lot less of an issue than it is now. But truly, most people you talk about when they say multiple sources of income, it doesn't mean that they took their first $100 and diversify between 10 or 15 different verticals of investment. They usually go in on one, maybe 2 different, verticals of investment, maybe one a little bit risk off, having some savings, putting something in a high yield saving account. But the majority of their wealth is made in one vertical, and then they diversify from there. Most people, when they talk about real estate, yes, it is a very great tool to build wealth, whether it be for investment properties, short-term rentals, just holding wealth, borrowing against those properties, right? There's a lot of flexibility with those types of assets. But people don't go and just build their real estate portfolios, just wake up one day and go, cool, I'm going to go buy 3 investment properties, unless you come from money and fantastic and good for you. But most people, that's not the case, right? Usually they make money in the stock market, they make money in one vertical that they have to be a little bit more risk on with. Because I would say that real estate's not a huge risk on investment, because there is always, people always need to live in houses. You can't live in a Bitcoin, right? There's always that argument. But once we do build that wealth in that vertical, and then we take some off the top 20, 30, 40%, and then diversify that, and then still reinvest in those higher risk assets, that's how I believe that true wealth is truly made.
Absolutely, Matt. And I was gonna save it for the end just to kind of cap off the show, but Sailor Docs released something last week, I believe, and it was just talking about how Bitcoin is so much superior to really all other investments right now. It compared the NASDAQ, the S&P, and gold, and it kind of looked at, what if you invested $1,000 into Bitcoin in May of 2020. And I think this is a good time period for frame of reference, a 5-year period, half a decade, because most people look at the 2010s and talk about how great Bitcoin was. And even up until very recent, Bitcoin is still a great performer, outperforming your stock portfolio. And so it goes, if you invested $1,000 in that time period in 2020, you would have $12,156 worth in dollars of Bitcoin. So $12,000 worth of Bitcoin you would have just off of a $1,000 investment into Bitcoin. And now if you compare that with investing into the S&P or gold, you only would have gotten about a 2x more or less, a little bit more for your S&P, a little bit less for your gold, about a 2x. But on Bitcoin, $1,000 to $12,156 is a great return on your money. So team, what are we saying here? You got to invest in crypto. And how are you going to do that? At Crypto Charge. Maddie, give them the spiel.
Yeah, guys, it's not too late to get your stuff organized here, right? Like, I know some of you guys are seeing the breakouts and you're like, damn, I missed it, right? But that's really not the case. There's always going to be opportunity out there. Of course, the number of easy opportunities are becoming smaller by the day, but we can still help you guys get organized, find some opportunities to help you guys get invested in without putting a bunch of risk on the table. Live shows Monday through Friday where we do lots of charting updates. We have our Discord community to ask questions, our coin library for entries and exits, as well as our learning center with lots of quick start resources. Code YouTube, 30 days free, 50% off any membership, $49 a month, or $4.99 for the year. Either which way, check it out for 30 days, see if it's a good fit for you.
Absolutely. Team, we're going to get into the content today. And if you have been following the crypto industry, something big that took place on Friday that hit President Trump's desk is the Genius Act that ran through the Senate, and then the House took it and ran it through the House with committees and procedural votes, ended up getting passed. And I kind of quickly want to talk about this. I know you guys aren't that interested, but I feel like this will propel us into the show as we talk about Tether coming into the US and going to abide by Genius. We're also going to talk about, a independent company rated RLUSD as the best stablecoin. So we're going to discuss that. Is RLUSD the best stablecoin? Should you turn the other way to other stablecoins like Tether and USD? So we're going to discuss that a little bit. But we have to start here with Genius. And then at the end of the show, we'll get into some big charting. We got to look at that new XRP all-time high. We got to look at some of those altcoin charts for you guys. But let's start right here. Trump signs Stablecoin Genius Act, which is really the first major crypto framework and is really a departure from the Biden administration, where there was no initiative for crypto clarity. And so, listen, okay, we're going to be honest here. I'm going to be honest here. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. If, we have geopolitical headwinds, we have, Epstein files, amnesty, we have all these things that are going to cloud this Trump second term. One thing for certain is that crypto will be one of the things that benefit most from President Trump. Trump last year came out at Bitcoin conference in 2024 and said he wants to be the Bitcoin president and strategic reserve that. And that ended up coming to fruition here. So we could be maybe critical of all those other things, but one thing's for certain here, team. Trump in crypto, it's like this, and it's coming to fruition, and it came through with the Genius Act last Friday. And so what is the Genius Act? The Genius Act is a federal regulatory framework for stablecoins. So this tells stablecoin issuers, hey, what are you backing your stablecoin with? It better be USD and other liquid assets. It cannot be a algorithmic stablecoin, Matt. It can't be like 2022. We're not allowing that here under our regulatory framework here. It also mandates annual audits for issuers, and Genius also establishes guidance and guidelines for foreign issuance, which we'll get into in a bit with Tether, because there was possibility that Tether would not be a stablecoin allowed here in America. And the CEO came out and discussed, what they're going to do. And we'll get into that in a second. But as it relates to, so some quick things, again, Trump, crypto president, that's something great here, Matt. What's your initial thoughts on this Genius bill? Because me and you had some discussions about this. What is your reaction on how this is going to impact the overall market?
Yeah, I'm excited about the framework in itself. And again, every piece of framework can be pushed in one direction or another based on the actual application of that, right? And over time, you're not always going to have a fully 100% smooth process, but I think that there is more positives than negatives inside of the Genius Act. Obviously, sandbox environments for governments to test with different digital asset solutions for me is a huge one. But another sector that people maybe aren't realizing is there going to be allocations and potentially like grants and funds for the advancements or retraining of certain industries that are going to be having blockchain applications or DLT applications integrated into their existing businesses to revamp those industries and to allow a little bit more growth there, specifically in the STEM sector as well, which is going to be obviously a very big hand in glove fit. There's obviously lots of other smaller sectors that are involved as well, but there's going to be some big ones that really need to catch up on what other countries have been doing for the last 5 or 6 years because they've had a little bit more framework, a little bit more clarity. We kind of need to jumpstart that. So there's a lot of positive things in this act here that I think are going to help innovation. How we actually apply those, who actually receives those grants, that will determine the amount of success. But nonetheless, I think this is, like you said, Gavin, a 180 from the previous administration, regardless of how I feel about Donald Trump personally. This is a very big, not net positive thing for crypto, and I'm very excited for the potential application of what this framework allows for.
Yeah. Wars, you have the tariff situation. You have all these things that are, at the forefront of the Trump administration right now. But, crypto clarity, and you saw what happened with our crypto this weekend after we saw Crypto Week in the House, and it has really been tremendous. And so, I did want to kind of quickly talk about something that did catch my eye last week that kind of could be a telltale sign going forward as it relates to the Clarity Act and the Anti-CBDC Act, because the Clarity Act is very important because it provides clarity with crypto market structure. Definitions for a blockchain, applications, brokers, self-custody. And so these are all very important to the crypto market. And so I believe I heard Brian Armstrong say like, hey, stablecoins is 7% of crypto. The other 93%, that's in the crypto market structure bill. That's in the Clarity Act. And so we need that passed. And so what I was forecasting, Matt, is, hey, listen, maybe we have an easy procedural voting last week. That didn't actually end up happening. I wasn't paying close attention to Marjorie Taylor Greene. And she went on Bannon and went on Alex Jones, and I was listening to her talk about it. And, within her worldview, she's staunchly against CBDCs. Okay. But the problem that I noticed last week, which is going to be a telltale sign going forward, is are we able to clearly articulate what our crypto bills are about? And are we able to understand them? Because to my understanding, you had this procedural vote last week. It got shut down by 12 Republicans. Trump invited them to the Oval Office to discuss with them. And then the next day, they flipped, right? And so, but Marjorie Taylor Greene was one of these that still voted no. And so, because she's staunchly opposed to CBDCs. She cited earlier in March of this year when Trump did the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve and anti-CBDC, she wanted that included in the Genius Act. So Matt, is it valid for her to want anti-CBDC language included within the Genius Act? Because for me, I think it would have been no. And I'm going to tell you why, is because there was so much pressure on getting this Genius Act on President Trump's desk, right? It already ran through the Senate. It then got through the House, through committees. And then last week was the big crypto week especially for the Genius Act, right? And I know there were some talks to get Clarity and Genius on at the same time. But what would have happened, Matt, is with an amendment added to the Genius Act, it would have had to ran back through the Senate again. So if it was up to Marjorie Taylor Greene, we would not have the Genius Act right now. Do you think it's better that, hey, we got the Genius Act out of the way and now we can hopefully wait on an anti-CBDC and market structure bill? I know she's, not as enthusiastic. She actually thinks it's going to get shot down in the Senate. So I don't know. What do you think?
I don't think that it's so important that we pack it in there. And it really is very interesting to me that the U.S. is coming out with this anti-CBDC language, considering it kind of removes to some extent some of the power that they would have potentially over issuance of stablecoins and a variety of other things. I think that also, I think a variety of people, I would say actually the majority of people in Congress don't understand DLT or blockchain at all. Like not even on an elementary level, right? And I think that it's also illustrated outside of crypto when you just look at the, first of all, just again, not to be discriminating here, but just looking at the average age of the person in Congress, right? And then you look back on, for example, the congressional hearings and testimony we had with Facebook,
Maxine
right?
Waters.
Right. Oh my God. And you're asking the questions they ask you, like, now, Mr. Zuckerberg, does this mean that Facebook can access my social security number? And you're just like, what the hell are you even talking about, right? Or the whole TikTok thing, and they really are just asking the most dumb questions. And then these are the same people that are telling you, oh no, you don't understand the important things that have to be put into this bill in order to protect American citizens. I'm like, buddy, I don't think you even understand how a blockchain works. Step one. So I think that there are other motives for some of this really strange language I don't even think Americans are asking for, right? I don't think that I see people on Twitter and in the public jumping up and down and like, you better not make a digital CBDC, right? Like, in fact, I don't even think they care about how the regular central banking system works now. So I think there's probably something very strange and very ulterior motive surrounding anti-CBDC language, because it really does not make a lot of sense to me. But again, glad to see Genius, glad to see what we can get out of Clarity. Again, with any bill, I never have this fairy tale dream that it's all going to be everything I want and there's not going to be anything bad packed in there or anything that's ever going to work against us. But I think they will eventually pack that into one of the bills, and it might not even be a crypto specific bill. A lot of times, guys, bills will be about healthcare or education or whatever, but they'll still pack in funding that has to do with defense or all kinds of other crap. So this could be packed in this bill. It could be packed in a different bill. It could be packed in anything.
Yeah, I did want to issue. So one of her critiques is that it's not that, hey, listen, Genius is a stablecoin bill. It needed to have some CBDC language. She is saying that. But what she also saying is that the Genius bill is actually working against us. And it's, or at least for the people that are anti-CBDC. And she's saying that it is allowing a backdoor for the Fed and a CBDC. And, I read it and I talked about it briefly last week before my cleaning lady came up. But something that was interesting in there, and in lines 22B and 19, clearly identify what a payment stablecoin is. It's not a national currency, which is the complete opposite of what a CBDC would be as a digital dollar. It also said in line 13, clearly says the bill does not expand any legal eligibility for the Fed, right? So if we wanted digital dollars at the Fed and we would have accounts at the Fed, that would likely have to go through Congress, right? And so the point is like, I don't think there's anything in Genius that will work against for the people that are anti-CBDC. I think, again, we're going to use this, I think Margie Taylor Greene sees smoke and also thinks there's fire. I just think just because the language isn't there, it is very suggestive against anti-CBDC language, and that will come through in an anti-CBDC bill that's now in the Senate, So it's already passed the House, it's in the Senate now. So I don't think, for those people out there, because I know there might be a fringe group of people that are afraid of, our technocratic future and the Federal Reserve, being able to take your money away. I understand those concerns. I have boomer grandparents. I get it. I understand it. I lived with them for like a year and I heard it every single day on, when they listen to Fox News and they get spewed all these, information that's really, has no backing. It's just all he said, she said stuff. And this is one of those he said, she said moments as it relates to anti-CBDC. I think there's really nothing to worry about here. But as it relates to stablecoins in particular, something interesting that came with the Genius Act was foreign issuance, right? How would this partake in America? And we got that answer, and we are seeing it, short-term success here with Tether. And so here we go, new news article here. Tether CEO says he'll comply with Genius to come to the US. Okay, so I'm pretty sure you guys are aware of USDT. It's the most popular stablecoin in all of the world. I believe it holds like 62% of all stablecoin market cap. It's very, very popular. The problem is Tether is out of El Salvador, right? So how would this work with foreign issuance, right? Because, there wants to be regulations if we're here in America, but you can't really apply strict regulations for some of these people that are outside of nations. So they have to be under a different regulatory framework. And so or at least meeting some of the standards that we're applying for, RLUSD and Ripple Labs. So Tether intends to make USDT its flagship dollar-pegged token, complies with the Genius Act's regime for foreign stablecoin issuers, and thus can trade in the United States. The Genius Act requires foreign issuers to obey stringent AML laws and undergo intricate audit reserves. That'll mean a new auditing regime and changes to the vast reserves the company already maintains, which the CEO says will require an adjustment. So the CEO has talked about bringing Tether, bringing USDT here to America. He also wants to launch another stablecoin under the umbrella of Tether, specifically for institutions, but this USDT being great for remittances. And so, Maddie, I feel like we have to have the biggest stablecoin here in America, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of seen a little bit of favoritism with USDC all around, right? And I can see
definitely
a couple different examples, right? But Coinbase being specifically one of them, and every private company is entitled to do what they want and offer whatever products they want, and maybe incentivize certain products. But you guys have probably seen the process with USDC on Coinbase specifically, where they've made it so Tether USDC can only be transferred over the Ethereum network, which we know is the most expensive and the slowest network available, whereas USDC now can be transferred from Coinbase over all the major networks, top 20 networks. They're paying you 4% APY on USDC and absolutely diddly on USDT. So kind of, making it a little bit of a very clear stance there. A lot of other governments around the world, again, I think it's not so much that they think that there's actual systematic risk. I think it's more about not being able to extract the profits from revenue that these stablecoin providers are going to be making if you're based in another country, right? Like, why would they want to support a company that, even though they're, providing the same amount of liquidity, and even if they are complying with a lot of the same standards, they're going to play favorites with those that are based here in the U.S. and are going to pay the highest tax rate here in the U.S., right? And with that probably comes a lot of regulatory favors, just like we saw with Ethereum and XRP, right? And again, I don't have anything bad against to say about USDC, but it's interesting that when you look at every derivative markets, that's whether they're U.S. based or not, and most of them are based outside of the U.S., almost all of them, their major highly liquid trading pairs are all USDT. Everything that we pull up on our show when we're looking at the liquid perpetual pairs, USDT. When you move USDC over, yeah, fantastic, but you're still swapping for Tether to be able to trade the perpetuals. Or even if you want to trade the highly liquid markets, you are going to be trading the USDT markets. So again, I think that over time, USDT will comply. They'll probably have to move HQ or something, maybe, or at least a subsidiary of it, and do like a US based Tether office to be able to have some compliance there, and then maybe we'll do like two different types of issuance of USDT. Again, I'm just speculating here, but I do think that there has been some really interesting behavior from a regulatory standpoint that has made it very difficult for Tether to comply, simply because they're not based here in the US. And again, I don't think that immediately implies systematic risk just because someone's not based here in the US. We have lots of products that we love that are not based here in the US that we import on a regular basis. And it's only because the headquarters are here in the US that they feel comfortable with that product or that software or whatever it is, because they can collect the highest tax rate.
Yeah, I do want to be very, very clear here, because I know you guys, some of you hold stable coins, and I want to make this very clear. There should be no worry with some of these stable coins. And we have one final one, because one of our favorite stablecoins, or a company that we really love, issued a stablecoin last year, and kind of benefits the XRP ledger. But the point is like, this shouldn't cause any worry. Like the CEO said, hey, USDT will follow compliance with Genius, right? So if you hold USDT, this should really be no worries for you, because I know you guys, I feel like a lot of people worry, Matt, and they're always looking for something to worry about. It's like, oh my gosh, I got to switch stable coins. It's like, chill out. That's not what we're talking about here. So Don't freak out. I did see this news headline about RLUSD, which is the stable coin from Ripple. And so here we have the highest rated stable coin on Bluechip, has never changed, but today, RLUSD becomes the new #1 ranked stablecoin with a grading of A. It's rating it an A, like how you would in Coolidge ABC. It's rated an A. And Bluechip sees RLUSD by Ripple as one of the safest stablecoins available, according to their analysis. RLUSD is 100% collateralized, backed by USD, treasury bills, government money market funds, bank deposits, and has a market cap of 527 million, making this a legitimate stablecoin. So Bluechip here is an independent agency, and they evaluate stablecoins, and they give it a rating, and they say whether it's a safe stablecoin or not. Interestingly enough, though, within their rating system, I couldn't get directly onto their website because they wanted me to pay. Every website, if you want to look at something actually be helpful for a crypto show, you have to pay for their information. So I found somewhere on Twitter, though, that someone said they took a screenshot and they said RLUSD is rated A. You know what was rated B+ was USDC. So they gave it almost a whole letter grade lower than RLUSD. And I thought this was interesting. So I went back into their website and I looked at, because I thought this was interesting, because this can confuse people. It's like, well, that makes Ripple Labs' stablecoin more safe, but they don't know why or even what reason that would give credibility. And also, too, USDC, Tether, they have attestation reports. You can go look at what they're holding to back their stablecoins. So they're safe. But they gave this knock to USDC, and I thought that was a little bit interesting because, like Maddie said earlier, USDC gets all the praise. It's on every exchange. And I'm like, wait, why are we now shitting on USDC? So there's no reason to be worried about USDC because as I was looking at how they rated RLUSD, you have to remember the reserves of RLUSD are held at America's oldest banks. It's also RLUSD is issued, or the oldest bank. It's issued by, or the reserves are at BNY Mellon. The issuance is by Standard Custody and the trust company. So they issue the RLUSD. So you have these big names that are attached to RLUSD, giving it some big clarity about how safe the stablecoin is. And also they're catering to institutions to redeem RLUSD. So remember, it's also too, RLUSD was launched last year as a great track record. It's had clear regulatory structure since last year, Q3, Q4 last year. So it has a good path, whereas Tether and, the stablecoin USDC, USDT have been around for quite a long time. So Matt, I feel like this has something to do with recency and the names that are attached to RLUSD, not really that, RLUSD is a safer stablecoin. It's like they're both backed by the same thing.
Yeah, they quite literally are. So really it comes down to kind of like preference of name brands a little bit, right? Like,
absolutely.
That's really what it is, right?
Absolutely.
Like you go to a little corner market, a little liquor store, and they're selling the same chicken that they're selling over at Albertsons. You're probably going to feel a little bit more comfortable buying that chicken over at Albertsons, even though it's the same chicken. I mean, maybe it's not the perfect example, but I really do think that, again, I'm a huge fan of Ripple. I think that they've...
Same chicken from the same farm, then it would be the same.
There you go, same farm. But, I think that Ripple's done a great job. I think that, again, there's probably even more confidence in Ripple now because they've fought tooth and nail to defend themselves and, could have, settled and folded a long time ago. And now that they've have all the clarity they could possibly want, they've been very selective about the partnerships and where they're putting the money in the issuance because they understand the process, right? You don't get to be that big of a fintech giant, not understand the process, understand the players, understand the name association you need to become popular. So I don't think RLUSD will also be the last big name stablecoin that we see out there. I think there will be other larger chains that you'll have big fintech companies that look at the Ripple model and they're like, cool, we're going to emulate that on a high level on Solana or Stellar Lumens or whatever it is. I don't think it's the last to come, but it's a very good template that I think a lot of companies are going to start building off of, especially as they start to see those ratings and partnerships start to pick up because of that trust that's built with a fintech company like Ripple.
Yeah, so RLUSD apparently, it's the best stable coin out there. It's got certified issuance by, Standard Custody and Trust Company. It's held at BNY Mellon, America's oldest bank. Its issuance or the redeemability of RLUSD is very easy for institutions. And so this is what makes it, along with its track record since last year of being completely regulated, it makes it one of the best stable coins. But what does this mean for XRP holders? Because I see this come up a lot. And I saw David Schwartz speak something to this because a lot of people, hey, listen, we're very pro XRP here. We love the XRP ledger. I love products being tokenized on the XRP ledger. But I do want to be clear about what we're getting here with the stablecoin. David Schwartz came out and discussed, the burn mechanism within the XRP ledger and how many tokens have actually been burned over the lifetime of the XRP ledger. And it's only about 14 million. So when you have 100 billion XRP and you're only burning 14 million, it's not really affecting the supply as much as you would think. So when you have RLUSD and within the transaction, it has a burning mechanism that's burning XRP, it's not really impacting the XRP ledger like you would think. So will I try to hold RLUSD in my portfolio? I guess, because guess what my biggest holding is? It's like, imagine if Bitcoin had a stable coin, right? It's like, that is kind of the thought process. So even if there is a helpful tool with the XRP ledger, but it's not impacting as much as you would think. So don't think by holding RLUSD, swapping it out for your USDC, that you're making some grand impact where you get to go on Twitter now. It's like, I've been helping Ripple Labs, I'm an XRP, blah, blah, blah. It's like you standing on your little soapbox. It's like, it's not really impacting the XRP ledger like you would think. And so I thought that was some good clarity because there was some miscommunication there about what, RLUSD can do for the ecosystem as a whole. And it's just not what everyone kind of wrote it off to be, I guess you could say. Matt, I did want to get into the charts, Matt, because we did get, speaking about XRP, we did get a new all-time high and, our biggest holdings are XRP. So what are we looking at, Matt?
Yeah, so beautiful breakout here. We've had a very long consolidation in here. Imbalance was left behind on the XRP price chart, which is probably my biggest bone to pick here, but I'm going to let it go for now. When we look at the compression structure here, and that's all that I saw was happening here this entire time, was just sideways compression. In fact, if you kind of zoom out and you kind of look at what has happened for XRP on multiple scales, right, is you've just had these classic compression with the bases here, right? And you can see that same example back in the early days of XRP as well with the long flat base, and then you have the compressive structure, right? And when those compressive structures break for XRP, and this is true of most assets as well, but specifically for XRP, they seem to follow kind of this long bottom compression structure, and they usually lead to pretty good sized breakouts. So you can see here from 21 through 24 ended up being a long compression here. So this was 1,300 days of compression. Then you got a really nice multi-X breakout there. And then we started forming this flag in here. We've had a really beautiful breakout here as well. So we'll get the high of the session here on the crypto chart here. So we had the high of the session there being 366 on the aggregated crypto chart, which is fantastic. Again, I remember Gavin could probably make a montage someday of all the idiots who in our comments on TikTok and everything said, you know, you're lucky if you get $2, pal. These two shits are holding all the XRP. They're waiting to dump on you. But one of the things we're looking at very short term here, when we just look at the January high and the April low as our compression or our range here for the Fibonacci's, we could be looking somewhere as 450 as our next very short term target here for XRP. But of course, we're also looking at the other ranges here as well when we're looking at target making. And we could see, again, 450, 460 still supported here from that 21. But the ones that start to come in a little bit above that are from 2017 through 2020, because this was such an important structure here, and this ended up just being a retrace back here in 21. I'm going to get rid of this other range in here. We can still see closer to, you know, $7, $13 from some of those previous structures in here as well. So I'm still very excited about the many legs that are left here in XRP, but I think that $4.50 to $5 is pretty eminent here for XRP. Again, if you guys are interested in getting involved in stuff that's overextended, you have to look for a pullback, right? Because I know what happens, right? And I've done this hundreds and hundreds of times with everybody, especially when we get, do the one-on-one sessions, while the markets are hot. And we talk about the downside risk. Guys, downside risk is 20, 30%. And they're like, yeah, got it. And I'm like, but it still could go lower than that, but this is the minimum where we have to get to. Matt, I got it. I just got to be in the market right now, right? And then we do end up correcting, and then we end up maybe correcting a little bit below that. We get some wicks below that, right? And then the emotions start to come in and go, oh, maybe XRP is not the right thing. Oh, maybe the bull market's over. So it's not so much about just getting the best entry. You guys have to make an investing decision and not just feel like you're missing out here. You missed XRP if this is your first time getting involved with XRP, right? Even if you're looking at, $7, $8, $13 at some of these next big targets, you missed a lot of the big entries in here. Especially the fact that we had even from this, whole bear market in here, again, we talked about this previously, you had 900 days to get a great price on XRP, and you didn't have to worry so much about the exact price. You could have just been dollar cost averaging $20 a week in there, and you would have had a fantastic average. So now is not the great time for XRP. If we get a pullback maybe towards 250 and you want to do a swing trade, great. But I would really encourage you guys to just sit out this opportunity until we get a pullback and look to other opportunity right now.
Absolutely. I think we'll cap it off there. You were discussing about API 3, but I think you should save that for the Crypto Charge live show for you guys to watch today. You guys need to show up there and get that. But man, it's just so crazy the turnaround we've seen in XRP. And even as of recently as last week, you saw the Barstool CEO, which I think is a degenerate gambler, and he gets his investing advice from his friend that told him to sell his XRP because of what?
Competing with Circle, allegedly competing with USDC. First, okay, we're not even going to get into it, but like, what an absolute moron. What is this guy like? Why are you first of all giving advice out? He has enough money to make good investing decisions, and like without even researching it, like understanding that USDC doesn't move at all, right? Like it's a stablecoin, one for one. You're never ever going to be able to be profitable with USDC. XRP is a digital asset that is used as gas tokens for a network, which can include payments, but it can include a variety of other things, including minting NFTs, creating sidechain permissions networks, a variety of different things. So like it's just really frustrating and sad to me that you have people out there that are very popular, right? Because you have a meme page where you just post all kinds of dumbass videos that people like, and they see you and they're like, oh, Dave Poirier, he knows what he's talking about. He's got a lot of money, right? People who have a lot of money are very fucking stupid a lot of the time. In fact, there's somebody that I know that was very close to our program that sold all of his XRP before it even broke out because he was convinced that meme coins were the next wave up, right? Mm-hmm. So understand that just because someone's putting a lot of money behind something does not mean they know what they're talking about.
Actually, huge vindication on the crypto charge front, because within the Genius bill, you are seeing that mature blockchain system and what categorizes that as a mature blockchain. Meme coins do not meet that because a lot of them are essentially controlled. So that this whole wave of like meme coins is going to go away with clarity. it's going to be gone. And you already see that early stages within the stablecoin bill. So, total vindication here, looking at real tech and not being super hyper emotional within the moment when you could have been in the bear market. Hey, we discussed on the Ask Matty show last week how long it took for XRP to break out in November, early November of last year. It takes time within this market. And that's why we're going to capitalize on it and take, we're going to be rolling into stablecoins and fiat, hoping to do something better with it. But a lot of you just need to take it into stablecoins, take it into RLUSD or USDC or whatever, and then go back into the next bear market and buy again, Matt. I think, again, just speaking to what you were saying about Dave Portnoy, it's just so silly how you as an individual could allocate your time and attention to someone who obviously just LARPs as an investor. He has LARPing investing show where he's just like a bro dude that, I just invest my money. I throw my money in and we see what happens. That's what his investing style is. That's not what we do here.
No, we're not here to spin the wheel and do our next DraftKings pick for, the next parlay that's going to make you guys a millionaire. And that's, to some extent, just because there's legitimate assets doesn't mean that it's a good investing decision, right? Just like we're telling you right now, yeah, XRP could go to $455 in this next leg here, but the downside risk is also very significant. And the average person who does that kind of investing could care less about the charts. They probably don't even own a single subscription to a charting service. And they probably have spent zero time understanding the risk to reward. They have no tools to actually measure it. The fact that you made a multi-million-dollar decision to dump a very valuable asset because someone gave you a little tidbit without even pushing further on it to learn more about it, again, is unfortunately the average person out there, right? We also have, again, just last person that we're going to give example of here, Coach JV, right? When out here saying that he was the big XRP guy and he knows all this stuff that's going on with XRP, guys, don't worry about getting heavily invested in XRP. What you guys need to do is spend your good hard money, giving link to your money so you guys can get in the pre-Ripple IPO. Here we are again, right? So again, I'm saying, not saying that everyone makes the perfect investing decisions, right? But at the end of the day, most of these guys will take any kind of incentive. They could care less what actually happens to the money, could care less what happens to your money, and will essentially blindly gamble to follow a narrative, right? And that's all they're doing. They're either making themselves very wealthy by having some sort of ulterior investing stream from it, or they do not care, and all they care about is banking up their views to get paid by YouTube, TikTok, whoever it is, right? They don't care about your outcome because they're not liable for it. They're not liable for your outcome. So just be very careful, guys. Spend as much time as you guys do and working hard for your money as you do putting time and research before you make an investment, because it's hard to get those dollars back, right? Because I know that it takes time to do that. So be careful, guys. Check us out at CryptoCharge, 30 days free with code YouTube. I want you guys to be as educated as possible. Even if you guys get on the website, rate all the resources for 30 days, and you guys walk away as a more educated person, you don't stick with our program, I'm happier about that. I genuinely am. So please check it out, guys.
Something interesting you're seeing right now as I go through Decrypt, I go through CoinDesk, you're seeing a flip where their analysts at these reputable crypto-related news outlets are now saying, I read someone last Friday, that XRP is a better buy than Bitcoin now. And it's like, this is something we've talked about for a long time. Get into XRP when the price is low. But now that price is up, now that XRP has outperformed Bitcoin this cycle, now to them, it's a good time to buy. You guys got to do the opposite here. And we're going to take this to our other assets. What we say about API 3, what we say about Zcash, you need to implement those same ideas. What they're saying, you shouldn't be doing that. You need to be looking at the altcoins that are lagging behind right now. And they're still lagging behind right now, right, Matt?
Absolutely. There's still plenty of opportunity out there, guys. And I want you guys to jump on the easy opportunities. Once there's no more easy opportunities, fantastic. Let's, go ahead and look for those higher lows. Let's identify areas of interest on 3 or 4 opportunities for you guys to join the trend, right? I'm not saying that all the opportunity is gone. I'm saying the easy opportunities are becoming less and less. So let's jump on the easy opportunities while they're there. Once they're gone, let's work together to help you guys identify additional opportunities to join the market again without FOMOing in, without making emotionally charged decisions, making it based on risk to reward. And that's all I want for you guys, right? I don't expect you guys to do it perfectly. I don't expect to help you guys time the market. I don't expect you guys to always make every investment a perfect investment. I just want you guys to help manage you guys' risk both on the entry and the exit, and the rest is completely up to you.
Right. All right, team, that's all we got for today. Long show, so you have to leave a like. It's mandatory. If you've gotten to this point, please leave a like. It's a 38-minute show today. Again, we try to do 21-minute shows, but somewhere between like the first 10 minutes, I'm like, let's just keep going. We got more stuff. We don't need to slow down. So, team, leave us a like. If you have any questions, leave it in the comment section down below for the Wednesday show, the Ask Matty show, 2:30 p.m. Pacific, and we will bring up your questions there if they are good. There's no reason to hate on us. You guys did all that hating within the bear market. Oh, your cryptos aren't going to do that. Yeah. Now what? Look at our portfolio now. Look at what our assets are doing now, which we have a track record here. Look at all of our shows. You can go through the thumbnails. What the thumbnail says is what the show is about. If XRP is in the thumbnail, XRP is talked about in the show. Same for, every single show we've done after hours and the Ask Matty show. So we're super vindicated, Matt. And a lot of people, like to tout their wins. I don't think we really do that a whole lot. We try to minimize. We try not to make it all about ourselves, but about the data. And, hey, listen though, but we are investors too, and we have reaped tremendous rewards in this asset class. So I think there is we are valid in that front. I do think you guys need to, like Maddie said, look at some of the other altcoins that, Maddie's going to discuss on the Crypto Charge live show later today. So, all right, team, we will see you guys Wednesday. Bye.